Marty, do you want to talk to people
Mhm.
before I start about the housekeeping stuff?
Yes. So, bonjour et bienvenue tout le monde à l'Assemblée Générale Annuelle de l'Association Professionnelle des Agents de Services Extérieurs, or PAFSO for short. A few technical points I'd like to go over for everyone who is currently in. If you view the chat function at the top of MS Teams, you should see the pinned link to the AGM documents, anglais et français. If anyone is using a VPN to connect, we recommend disconnecting because that may cause connectivity issues for you. After the president and general manager report, we'll be taking questions for those two areas. After the treasurer's report, we'll take questions before we adopt the budget. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll get to you through the list. I will then I will enable your microphone and camera so you can ask your questions to everyone here for what you have. Take it away, Pam.
Okay, thanks, Marty. Can you see my slides? I tried to let somebody in and I popped myself out of MS Teams, so apologies, everybody. Go ahead.
I can see your slides.
Okay, perfect. So, bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Pamela Isfeld. Je suis la présidente de la PAS et je vous souhaite la bienvenue this is our 2023 annual general meeting. Marty has gone over the housekeeping things, so since we're at quorum, I would first like to recognize that I am chairing this meeting from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, and acknowledge and respect them as the past, present, and future guardians and caretakers of these lands. And since we're all calling in from different places, I invite all of you to take a moment and think about the traditional guardians and caretakers of the places where you're calling in from and what that means for our work and our lives as AFSO members and as citizens of Canada. I'll just run quickly over the agenda. We're going to first adopt the agenda, then we will present the new executive committee, and I believe we have a nomination from the floor for one vacant FPDS position. We will then adopt the minutes. You'll hear a report from me and a report from Bertrand Muir, our general manager. At that point, we'll have some questions, and then we'll have the report of the treasurer, questions arising from the reports that have been presented to you in your package, which you can find in the chat. Marty has put the link in the chat if you haven't already been through it or you want to follow along. Then we'll have the report on the professional committee. We'll have someone say a word or two about Bout de Papier and our PAFSO Indigenous Mentorship Initiative. Then there's a chance for questions or business from members, and then the end of the session. And we're aiming to finish for sure at the absolute latest by 5:45, so we can start the memorial award presentation, and ideally about 15 minutes before that, just to give everybody time to switch gears and go do something, come back with a glass of wine, and be ready to hear about the award winners. So ça, c'est une session bilan. Vous pouvez poser des questions et faire des commentaires dans la langue de votre choix, and you'll hear from people here in both languages. So before we get started, is someone willing to move to adopt the agenda? Allison moves. Is somebody willing to second? William seconds. Does anyone have any proposals, any amendments for the agenda? Seeing none, I will call the question. And does anyone object to the adoption of the agenda? I'll do it that way since it's easier in this virtual format. So I'm seeing none. So the agenda is adopted. There it is.
Hi there.
Our motions. Sorry, who's speaking? Is
If you have
someone's
if you have a question or need to vote, if you can raise your hand, that'd be most helpful.
okay? So the agenda is adopted, and unless there was someone wishing to make an objection. I'm not hearing any, so we will go on to the next part of the agenda, which is the presentation of the new executive committee and the nomination from the floor. So I want to welcome our new members, Gabrielle Bastien, Inez Charbonneau, Megan Dalby, and Andre Marquis. And to welcome back our returning members, Alison Poff, William Dunlop, Logan McNamara, Michael Crichton, Tam Ames, and John Gossel. I also want to thank some members who are not coming back this year for a following year for various reasons. Karine Girard, Sarah Final, Iris Louise, CJ Scott, Madeline Johnson, Tanya Below, and Marie-Claude Harvey. So we're going to miss them, but we're glad that Kristen Jansen and Naomi Gilker are still with us entering the second year of their terms. So we do have one vacant FPDS position. And I understand that there is a nomination from the floor, and I believe I saw Liam Kirkpatrick out there. Liam, could you there? I see he's raised his hand. So Liam, I'm assuming you are still willing to stand for this. I haven't scared you off. You understand the awesome responsibility of being one of our PAFSO FPDS representatives.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you want to say anything to anyone about why you would to do this or?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be brief. So my name is Liam Kirkpatrick. Hi, everyone. I see some folks I do know, and plenty of folks I don't. I joined the department around 18 months ago as part of an external competition, and I'm an FPDS FS1 serving in the International Security and Political Affairs branch at headquarters at the moment. I previously worked in the House of Commons and with UNODC abroad. I'm really looking forward to working on XCOM and getting to know more about the profession of the Foreign Service Officer, and also bring the perspective of the new generation of at least GAC FSs that are trickling into the department after a few long overdue external competitions.
Thank you, Liam. That sounds great. I'm very glad that the idea of doing this appealed to you, and it sounds like you've got some great experience that we're going to take ruthless advantage of while we have you on the executive committee. So, is there someone willing to move to nominate Liam? I see Annika Zaumi, and I can't see. Marty, can you see? I can just see +2. So I see that there's someone
There's
else. Is
lots of
someone else willing? Hmm?
Kale Husband will second.
Kale has been seconds. Okay. So if it's okay with everyone, I'm just going to do this this way. Does anyone object to the nomination of Liam? Oh, Annika, did you want to speak, or is that just your hand coming up again?
Sorry, this is my fault.
No, no worries. I apologize to everybody. We're doing this on Teams because we thought it would make it easier for people to join in from, the various offices. But I really am not used to Teams myself. I'm much more used to Zoom. So Marty has done a great job of setting everything up and shepherding me through. But I still will probably be confused at different points of this. So fair warning, and all entirely my fault. So I'm seeing no objection to the nomination of Liam. No, is there another candidate that would like to, do we have any other candidates that want to come forward to be nominated? I am not seeing any, so.
We have.
Yeah, sorry, I am
Sorry, who's Sarah?
Naomi.
Oh, sorry, Naomi, what's your last name?
Moindroziliox. Maybe I'll write it in the chat. I know it's long.
Okay.
We also have a second hand up for Sarah Tayam.
Oh, and I'm sorry, actually, I owe Sarah an apology. Sarah, you're on here already. You should be in the, I should have welcomed you at the beginning. You are one of our two FSIA representatives, so you're acclaimed because we only had two people for the FSIA. So I owe everyone an apology. That's my mistake that Sarah was not welcomed at the beginning. I think I just I didn't save my slide properly. So, okay, so we have Naomi, would you like to tell us what you would like to do why you're interested in joining the executive committee and what you would bring to the position?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a little bit late with the PAFSO train. I didn't understand how it worked, and I feel like a concern that I have with members of the union and so on is that as far as the new FS1 cohort externally has joined recently, one of the main things that we want to work on and ensure is that there seems to be, I guess it's a little hard for us to know what to expect going forward, and I feel like the rules can change frequently, and we want to make sure that it's fair, and that new FS1s, especially people from the external who are new to the public service, have a good understanding of how the role evolves, particularly when it comes to the positions, because we were told that a lot of FS2 positions would be changed to FS1 and so on. So we want to keep an eye on that and make sure that positions are recalibrated in a fair way and not, just FS2 changed to FS1, but same workload and FS1 pay rather than FS2 pay, that kind of things like that. So I wanted to be involved to follow up with that closely, and make sure that we were consulted and that the process was done in the most professional way possible. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. So your concerns are about the way GAC functions, if I understand correctly, rather than the way the executive committee functions?
I think so.
Okay,
I don't know.
sorry, I was just concerned there for a second. I was like, oh, okay. Understood. Okay, so Marty, it looks like we're going to need to do a vote. So how? Yeah.
Pam, it's Allison. Naomi, can you just tell us what stream you're in, please?
Sure, I'm in the MCO stream.
Oh, okay, Naomi, I'm sorry. This nomination is for an FPDS position.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess my internet didn't. I'm sorry. Okay, please remove me from that. Sorry, I think I didn't hear the beginning, and that's why I got confused. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry. I guess just to explain to folks maybe who missed our original briefings on how these things go, because I know new people have been hired like over the summer and into the early fall. We have 2 representatives designated for each stream, so 10 positions on Exxon are earmarked. 2 people per stream. Then we have 4 at-large positions. And when we did the initial nomination, we got a full slate of enough people to already fill all the positions, including the at-large positions, minus this one vacant FPDS position. So that's why we're having a nomination from the floor for the one position. And so Liam, you are an FPDS, right? I know we talked and we were back and forth on this, and just to be clear, you're an FPDS
yes.
officer, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. So let's go back to where we were. Is there any other FPDS officer who would like to stand for this vacant position? I am not seeing anybody. Oh,
There are no hands.
no hands. Okay. So, are there any objections to us accepting Liam's candidature as our FPDS representative? I am seeing none. Liam, you are acclaimed. Congratulations and welcome, along with Sarah, who I apologize again for leaving you off my slide there. If I could count, I would not have this problem. And thank you, everyone. You will officially, as of tomorrow, become officially legally members of the PAFSO Executive Committee. So thank you all. Thank you very much. Okay, on to our next item, which is the adoption of the minutes from the last AGM, which were part of your package. You've all had a chance to look at them. Does anyone have any modifications to the meeting? And for this, I do ask that, you know, if it's something that could be handled secretarially, like if you've noticed an error, a mistake, or a name spelled incorrectly or something like that, you know, please just let us know, and that kind of thing we will just do for the record. But I'm looking for substantive concerns about the way the business of the last meeting was presented. So we didn't get anything before leading up to this meeting, so we're assuming that I'm assuming that they're okay. I was there. It looks like they seem like a fair statement of what happened to me. So if anyone has any concerns, now is the moment to speak. Okay, so I'm seeing no concerns. So is someone willing to move to adopt the minutes of the 2022 AGM? I'm not seeing anybody. Michael? Oh, hi, Michael. Thank you. Is somebody willing to second?
Allison can second.
Okay, Allison, I'll take you. Liam, I'm sorry, I think I should take Allison just because I know she was there. So I think just for in terms of our record, it looks it's better in line with governance if it was somebody who was present, just for that, to check that box. So does anyone have any objection to the minutes, to considering the minutes adopted? Going once, twice, three times? Okay, the minutes are adopted. So thank you, everybody. We will now go on to my president's report. Yeah, it's been a busy year for PAFSO since our last AGM in October 2022. At that point, we were still very much responding to the effects of the COVID pandemic and all of the various things that we had been dealing with related to that. I'm happy to say that seems to have settled down. In a large part, people seem to have settled into reasonable working arrangements. You know, accommodations that needed to be made are being made most of the time. Things seem to be settling down. And we have managed to have some, you know, real victories since then. We did sign our collective bargaining agreement, which will be valid until 2026. We got 13.4% over 4 years, plus gains related to vacation thresholds, overtime, anti-discrimination, occupational health and safety, telework. And, you know, I thank you all. You ratified this agreement by 95% in favor. And with the total votes cast, that represented an absolute majority of the membership. So we were pleased that that you thought that we had done an okay job with that. Of course, with anything, you know, we would always like to have gotten more. I mean, I personally would have really liked to have seen us get something more that was closer to the level of inflation. But, you know, given the environment and the atmosphere of public service bargaining and everything that was going on, I think, you know, your negotiating team really did its best. And I have to thank our chief negotiator, Paul Raven, for getting us to that point. Paul Raven has also been the person responsible for pulling together PAFSO's proposals for the cyclical review of the FSDs. We've exchanged our priorities or our proposals with the employer side based on the priorities that were identified by you in the consultations that took place over the previous few months. The main concerns were economic erosion, flexibility of coverage, support for families and spouses, travel provisions, and health and disability support. And so we've exchanged proposals based on those. We have received the employer's proposals. We can't talk about the specifics because we're still bound by confidentiality, but I'm hearing from the other side that there is a real appetite to take a look at the FSDs from the ground up and try to come to something that will serve everybody's needs a little bit more. Because we all know that the administrative burden on both individuals and on the department is huge. And the service and the support is just not what it should be in so many areas. So that's going to be a big area of concern for us going forward, an effort for us going forward. On the advocacy side, which last year I was telling you we were just ramping up, we were just about to hire an advocacy and stakeholder relations officer, and in fact we have two individuals doing a job share, Daniel and Adam. And Adam, I believe, is here right now, and we'll talk to you later about Buddha Papier. We have been working on things like our contributions to the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee study on the Foreign Service, which we submitted a couple months ago. We've been working on our tools, including revamping the website to make it a more effective vehicle for our advocacy efforts, and also a more effective way for you to find information and get what you need from PAFSO. We are putting back Buddha Papier back on track. You will have seen that we're starting to look at having payment for articles, and hoping that this will give us some new energy and be able to get the magazine out there and showcasing our profession the way that we want it to. And we've also had, and I'll let Bert talk a little bit more about those, some major victories on the labor relations side, which that's a part of the reason that we do all of this advocacy stuff, is to make people appreciate the hard work that everybody does and the value of the profession. And then where we see that is in concrete things like decisions and the way we're treated, and in what we're offered in terms of collective bargaining. We've also made some progress on our reconciliation ideas, including the launch of our PAFSO Indigenous Mentorship Initiative, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll have William talk a little bit more about that at the under the professional committee item. And in general, PAFSO as an organization is in a pretty strong position. I was happy that we had an unusual amount of vacancies due to a couple people deciding to move on from the Foreign Service to other things, promotions, and going to work in other departments. And had a little bit more unexpected turnover than I thought we were going to this year, and we managed to fill all of our positions, so minus the one. And so that's pretty good that people are interested and willing to come forward and contribute. And Allison will talk a little bit more about our budget, but I'm happy to say that even with reimbursing the $300,000 advance that we got on our dues a couple of years ago, we're still in a profit position for this year. So we're a strong organization, taking everybody into the future, and I'm happy to be able to say that. We're also, on est dans la dernière année du plan stratégique. The main elements are there. We have updated our constitution, our governance structure, and our programming. At the last AGM, I was reporting on the evaluation of our programming that our former executive director had done. And I'm happy to say, we've been looking at all of that and are about to make some proposals for revitalized PAFSO awards. We've also been making improvements to our system of collecting information on our members, GBA Plus analysis, which we use to inform our negotiations on the collective agreement and our proposals for the FSDs. One area where we're still working, Bert, our GM, is working on the risk management strategy and framework. So that's something that you'll be hearing from us down the road on. But that's an important element of governance and of making sure that, you know, we all have a shared understanding of what we can and can't do with the money that you guys give us. Going forward, we're going to continue this with our particular focus on the advocacy pillar and strategy. We want to continue to raise awareness of members' work and value to secure better support. It came out during the study on the Senate study on the Foreign Service that we have some work to do still on establishing PAFSO as the authority on the issues and interests for serving Foreign Service officers. There were a few people talking to the Senate committee about us and our work and our needs that had frankly, came as a surprise to me and had not come to speak to PAFSO. So I think we're working to make sure that we are the place that people will come to find out what you guys are doing and what you need and what the main issues are. And we also want to raise your awareness of the services and support that are available through PAFSO. I mean, a union, it's not just an insurance policy. It's a mutual aid organization, and it's a place where, you can come if you have an idea, you have something that you want to see happen. We can offer you support in working on some of the issues that are of importance to you. And, to a certain extent, you get out what you put in. But we're here to be able to provide a framework and some structure and to work together. So we have resources that we can use to do that. So going into next year, we are going to be looking at the last bits of the strategic plan, launching the new cycle, intensifying our advocacy efforts, and in particular, in terms of time-sensitive or current issues that are preoccupying me, I'm still concerned about the FSDs. I think we have quite a lot of work to do there. Also, the atmosphere of budget cutting that we're all in, and especially, how that affects your occupational health and safety and personal security and other security at work. But, the main lesson of the strategic plan is that it was good to have one. This was PAFSO's first strategic plan. And it has been very useful in keeping us on track and helping us to deliver on the things that you need. So we're going to have another one for sure, and we will be reaching out to everyone to consult on what it should say. So, yes, sorry, that's my slide just reminding us that we'll take questions after the general manager's report. So I will turn over, Bert, I'll turn over to you, and I'm going to stop presenting so that you can put up your own slides. Does that fit with the plan?
Yes,
Okay.
That fits perfectly. So
there we are.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. Can everybody see my presentation? Can you see it, Pam, on the screen?
Yep. I can see it. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour à tous. My name is Bertrand Mir. I'm the general manager of the secretariat at PAFSO. I'm also known as Bert, as you probably heard. Essentially, my role as general manager is to manage the daily operations of the secretariat. Now, essentially, the association is divided into two. There's the component of the association that roughly that's the responsibility of the national president and also the ExCom member. But there's also what I would call the union side, which our role is to offer representation to our members. The representations are essentially in two forms. First one is the collective aspect. That's where we negotiate the collective agreement on your behalf and also the FSDs. And there's also the individual representation whenever you have an employment-related issue that you want to discuss with us. Our job is to essentially assess your situation and propose different options. So we have a group of dedicated folks that are doing an extremely good job of providing you with what I consider to be excellent services in the limitation that we have, of course, in terms of our responsibility. So essentially, en gros, cette année, évidemment, l'année est marquée par l'ère post-COVID, durant laquelle les employés du secteur de la fonction publique ont retourné au travail. Ça l'affecte, j'imagine, la majorité d'entre vous, peut-être, sauf peut-être ceux qui travaillent à l'étranger, où est-ce que vous aviez déjà commencé à revenir au travail d'une façon plus permanente. Maintenant, c'est sûr que le milieu de travail a repris une allure là, qui est un peu plus normale. Les gens ont retourné au travail sous un modèle hybride la plupart du temps, à raison de 2 à 3 jours par semaine, ce qui a eu quand même des impacts assez considérables là, sur les opérations du secrétariat en termes de demandes, en termes de questions que les gens avaient, en termes de préoccupations également. Lorsqu'on parle de demandes, on a reçu plusieurs demandes pour des gens qui voulaient avoir des accommodements, des mesures d'adaptation par rapport à la nouvelle horaire. On a eu également des préoccupations en matière de santé et sécurité. De ce que j'ai compris au début de la réintégration en milieu de travail, c'était pas facile. Il semblait pas avoir de place pour tout le monde. Donc, ça l'a engendré certainement énormément de questions de la part de nos membres. Et ça nous a occupés là, pendant le mois, je dirais, le dernier mois de novembre jusqu'à peu près fin décembre. Là, ça a été assez mouvementé à ce niveau-là. Cette année, nous, le secrétariat, on s'est donné 3 priorités. La première priorité, c'était l'engagement des membres. La deuxième, c'était au niveau de la communication. Et évidemment, les services de représentation ont été et sont toujours au cœur là, de nos réalisations. If we look at the structure of the secretariat, as Pam mentioned, we added new staff to our team. Daniel Polak was hired as the ASRO position. ASRO is Advocacy and Stakeholder Relation Officer position. Daniel really worked closely with Pam to work on an advocacy plan and to take care of all the media relation stuff. So every time that you see either Pam or PAFSO's mentioned in media, that's mostly part of Daniel's work. Daniel was hired on January 19th of this year. He joined us, and we are extremely proud to have him on board. We also hired Adam Beauchemin, as Pam mentioned. Adam, I think, is on the call. Adam, initially, he was hired as the assistant to the editor-in-chief to help us with Bout de Papier. But now Adam and Daniel are kind of job sharing the advocacy position. So right now, I'm glad that Adam has decided to stay on board with PAFSO because initially he was hired as a student to kind of help us with Boo. He was supposed to just be employed at PAFSO until the end of the summer, but we're extremely pleased that he's accepted the offer on a part-time basis with Daniel to do the ASRO position. So we're very proud of that. And last but not least, Monique Pune, who was hired as a labor relation officer. Monique was hired on July 31st of this year. Essentially, Monique was hired to mostly deal with FSD issues, and I'll tell you why in a little bit later, but I think kind of Pam kind of touched upon it. one of the main, obviously, one of our main objective was to be able to negotiate a new collective agreement, which we now have. Also, we are gearing up, as Pam mentioned in her report, to the FSD cyclical review process, which has started. Essentially, as Pam mentioned, Paul Raven, who's our spokesperson on the FSD NGC committee, during the cyclical review, he will be more or less in the office because he's going to tackle on this process on an extensive basis. So Monique was hired to kind of backfill for Paul when Paul will start the cyclical review. Obviously, some of the broader issue that we had to deal with this year, changes to the public service healthcare plan, that was a major issue, and it's still a major preoccupation for us. The return to work plan, as I mentioned, and believe it or not, folks, even after 7 years, we are still having issues with Phoenix. So some of our members are still having issues with Phoenix. And one of our priority for this year was to have a new website, which I'm glad to report that it's right now live and it's working very well. Now, on the collective bargaining front, I won't repeat what Pam said, but for most of you are aware, we've signed a new collective agreement that was in effect on June 30th of this year. It will stay in effect until June 30th, 2026. What I can say, every time there's a new collective agreement in place, obviously there are several questions that arises from members. So during the month of June and July, we spent countless of hours having to respond to some of those general questions that came in, specifically in terms of the new collective agreement. Comme Pamela l'a mentionné, en 2023, les directives sur le service extérieur feront l'objet d'un examen cyclique. On appelle ça l'examen triennal. En janvier, la PAS a entamé un processus de consultation avec les membres en vue d'identifier les priorités pour l'examen cyclique. Nous avons interrogé les membres sur les principales préoccupations. On a organisé plusieurs séances d'information pour établir les priorités pour le processus. L'examen, elle est en cours. Elle se déroule comme prévu. Pour le moment, il n'y a pas grand-chose à signaler, mais le processus d'échange comme tel à la table devrait débuter vers la mi-décembre 2023. Pour ceux et celles là, qui veulent poser la question à c'est quoi l'échéancier en termes de révision cyclique, ça peut prendre essentiellement plusieurs mois. Ça va prendre plusieurs mois avant d'être en mesure d'avoir des nouvelles DSE en vigueur. Okay? En termes de relations de travail, as mentioned earlier this year in July, we've expanded our team. Monique certainly brings to the team significant experience in legal research and interpretation, as well as a lot of training in alternate dispute resolution. So having worked as a mediator and a negotiator in the private sector and with not-for-profit organizations, Monique is a solid addition to our team, and we're really, really happy to have her. Now, in 2023, we saw the team continued their excellent work assisting members on a variety of issues, mostly, again, grievance pertaining to the recovery of Phoenix overpayment. As some of you may know, PAFSO is the only union, well, it was the first union, I should say, in the federal public service to file grievances on the Crown Liability and Proceeding Act, which essentially limits the recovery of overpayments to a 6-year period. We were the first union to file grievances on that issue. And in fact, for your information, in November of this year, so next month, we are presenting our first 3 grievances in front of the Labor Board. Hopefully, if we are successful with those grievances, this will create a certain interesting precedent for sure. Now, obviously, as always, accommodation resulting from the return to work, or even accommodation in general, are usually some issues that we deal with on a regular basis. This year, we had an increase in terms of general accommodation requests, mainly as a result of the return to work plan. We also have had various cases involving pay, such as missing annual increment and issues with acting pay. Annual increment is a kind of odd situation because the FS group is the only group in the federal public sector that has the same anniversary date for all the members. And even with that, for some reason, the pay center finds a way to kind of forget to pay people their annual increment. We also had several staffing complaints arising from the FS3 competition. And we also had several queries related to the change of service provider from the public service healthcare plan. To continue on, 2023 also saw one of PAFSO, as Pam mentioned, one of PAFSO's biggest win against discrimination before the federal public service. After a long and drag-out process, the board has found that the employer's refusal on FSD 41 in regards to a case involving surrogacy was based on an inflexible, narrow, and restrictive interpretation, and that it constituted discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and family status. Now, despite the discrimination element to this specific case, this also opens the door to any other couple that will consider surrogacy as a birth process. So from now on, we expect the employer to kind of provide a more general and more reasonable approach specifically to FSD 41. So that was, in a nutshell, a very big win for the association. Now, as some of you may have participated in, because I've recognized some of the names, and I know that some of you did attend the last 5 à 7 that we had at what is it, the Fat Boys restaurant. Anyway, in 2023, PAFSO continued to add to its member engagement program. This is something that is near and dear to Pam and my heart, to kind of get people engaged, especially the new recruits. So we hosted 2 very successful 5 à 7 networking events. The first held on PAFSO's rooftop terrace in late spring. It was attended by 35 members, while the recent fall gathering, this is the one that I've referred to at, what's the name of the restaurant again? Fat Boys. That one, over 60 new members attended, we were quite pleased. Now, for your information, in October of this year, PAFSO officially joined Service Plus, which is essentially a free group discount program that is managed by PIPS. Now, PAFSO can now offer its member, regular, associated, or affiliate a wide range of exclusive promotion from top brands in entertainment, fashion, electronics, furniture, travel, and much more. So, if you're not registered to Service Plus, you may want to have a look at Service Plus on our web page, on our website. Sorry, there's a specific web page. If you're not seeing that web page, you can always send an email to Marty at the office, who will help you register on Service Plus. You can have some pretty interesting discount in top brand kind of things if that's something that might interest you. Au niveau des communications, cette année, on a élargi l'utilisation de nos canaux de communication, notamment au niveau de nos réseaux sociaux. Il y a maintenant un compte Twitter de la présidente, Pam. Je vous invite évidemment à la consulter, de vous joindre à son groupe. Désolé, je ne suis pas quelqu'un de vraiment compétent au niveau technologique, là, mais aussi, évidemment, PAFSO, on a un compte Twitter également. En plus du message bimensuel de la présidente, que vous recevez là à raison de 2 fois par mois, à tous les 2 semaines, l'équipe de communication a produit un très grand nombre de foires aux questions sur une vaste de sujets tels que les changements au régime de soins de santé, comment répondre aux grèves organisées par l'Alliance à un certain moment donné, comment demander une exemption pour le travail sur place, que faire au sujet des lettres de recouvrement que vous recevez, là, des trous perçus, particulièrement ceux qui datent de plus de 6 ans, très important. La PAS vient de lancer un nouveau site web. Le nouveau site web, on l'espère, vise à mieux répondre aux questions là, des membres, à fournir d'une façon plus efficace les informations qui sont pertinentes, dont les membres dont vous avez besoin. Le nouveau site, pour nous, est le point culminant de plusieurs mois de consultation auprès de professionnels des communications, de développeurs de web, des membres de la PAS, et nous espérons qu'à l'avenir, il s'avérera être une ressource précieuse pour nos membres qui veulent nous rejoindre. Je peux vous assurer que l'avoir vu, visuellement, il est beaucoup plus intéressant que l'ancien site qu'on avait. Je pense qu'il est plus complet et j'invite tout le monde à évidemment le consulter et aller le voir. So in conclusion, all in all, PAFSO's major achievement this year would not have been possible without the hard work and dedication of PAFSO staff. As the general manager, I'm extremely appreciative of our team. I'm grateful to be able to rely on such a professional and hardworking group of individuals. Donc, si vous avez des questions, je suis prêt à vous écouter et à tenter de y répondre.
Merci beaucoup, Bert. Same, definitely. We, certainly I and the executive committee, we recognize that we would not get anywhere without the dedicated PAFSO staff. And we're really lucky to have, good people, to be able to attract good people. And we've got a lot of collective experience there from a wide range of things. So, there's a lot to offer from the Secretariat, and we all benefit from that. I guess so. Now maybe we could take some questions. If there are any questions, please let us know now. Marty, was there anything in the chat or that was emailed to you that you want to?
I have not received any emails. Are there any questions in the chat? If you have any questions, keep your hand raised because MS Teams keep track of my question order, which helps me keep things going.
Okay, I mean, I don't want to force people because if there aren't any right now, there will be the opportunity at the end under the members' business and the more sort of general discussion. After we've talked about the budget, after you've heard about all of the reports. But if there was anything specific that came out of what either Bert or I said, Now is your chance. I was a little bit amused, Bert, when you were talking about a few inquiries related to the healthcare plan. I'm seeing a lot of commentary on that, and it's ridiculous, frankly. I just heard from a friend who is a federal retiree that the employer just gave the contract for their dental plan to Canada Life. I'm not sure. I think it was with Sun Life before. And, it just seems like nobody is capable of managing this contract or making sure that there are any services being provided to people. So, what we're doing is PAFSO members, we're not alone in this. I mean, it's all federal public servants and all unions. So we're working with the other unions through the National Joint Council to try to light a fire under them and get them to get this sorted out. But we're running up against what I call the wall of incompetence, in that nobody seems to be able to know what to do about this. So, keep sending us. I mean, we encourage you to contact your department directly. They're the ones that hold the contract and the ones that are responsible for making sure that the contract is enforced. So if you have issues, contact them directly. We've provided a couple of email addresses for you to do that. You may also want to consider writing to the healthcare administrator. Unfortunately, all they have is a postal address, which in this day and age says something about how much they want to get to be contacted. But, contact them and copy PAFSO on what you send so we can add, your situation and, have a good sense of how many people are being affected by this when we do our advocacy. But I know, Bert and the labor relations team are dealing individually, with situations where they can help. It's not part of the collective agreement, unfortunately. The healthcare plan. We have limited direct ways of intervening, but if you're having a serious problem and you're not getting anywhere, give us a shout. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to take that as a sign. Allison, are you ready there to talk about to do the treasurer's report?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to pop up?
It's okay. I don't think.
Yeah, okay.
They can just stare at me. Bon. Bonsoir, bonjour. Alors, je vais commencer avec le rapport sur l'adhésion. Alors, le document a été partagé avec vous avant la réunion. Au 29 septembre 2022, notre unité de négociation avait 2001 membres. Associés, on avait 94 et affiliés, on avait 220. Au 25 septembre 2023, notre unité de négociation a 2106 membres, associés 86 et affiliés 214. So this takes me into what Pam mentioned earlier. So back in 2018, 2019, Treasury Board advanced PAFSO $360,000 as they were struggling to determine the number of members that we had. And I will say IRCC, they seem to know exactly how many members we have. This is a perpetual problem with global affairs. So to help us deal with that, they advanced us $360,000 in an MOU. So recently, the office has gone and validated that we received the membership dues that were owed to us. So in order to take that off the books, we've repaid the $360,000. So that will show up in the 2023 budget. So you're not going to see it in any of the documents today. The other thing I'll touch on briefly, despite that payment, we will still end up in a positive cash flow. So a couple of reasons for that is, again, we are always conservative when we budget for the number of members that we'll have because we've struggled in the past to figure that out. We've also seen our investments rebound slightly, not quite to the pre-pandemic level, but still better than last year. We've also made a decision where a lot of our free cash we've put into layered GICs. So this is at a better interest rate, but it also gives us the flexibility of being able to pull out of the GICs without penalty. They're each locked in for about a year. So just ahead of the votes, we will go ahead and look at the audited 2022 statement. Alors, le document a été partagé avant. Alors, ça, c'est les états financiers jusqu'au 31 décembre 2022. So you can see in there that we ended up again in the positive cash flow. And as we continue to pledge to our membership, when we have funds at the end of the year, we put a lot of them towards our strike fund, our job action reserve, so that should we ever get into that situation again, we're able to do what we did with the last time, which is help offset our members' expenses by covering their pay while they are on strike. And then the second vote we'll do today is for the proposed 2024 budget. So you'll have seen that document as well. Again, as I mentioned, we're fairly conservative when we look at our membership dues. So that's usually how we end up in the positive financial situation at the end of the year. And just to go back, for the audited financial statement, our auditors did not flag any issues, and our 2024 financial statements are very similar to previous years in terms of what we anticipate doing. The main increase you'll see obviously is in salary, to reflect the fact that our president's salary will be increased as a result of the collective bargaining agreement that was signed. So that is the budget in a nutshell. So I will let people ask questions before we move to the vote.
Okay, maybe we should take questions on the audited statements first. Just to, yeah. Does anyone have any questions on the audited statements? I'm not seeing any. Marty, do you have any? Did anybody send you anything?
Nope. All good.
No. Okay. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions sur le budget proposé? Pas de questions? Pas de commentaires? Wow. Okay. It's a. Allison, do you want to move that we adopt the audited financial statements?
Sure. So I will move that we adopt the audited 2022 financial statements. And who would like to second?
Oh, I see Michael Creighton seconds. Yeah. Sounds good.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. So I'll do it.
I was going to say, are there any objections?
Okay,
No
seeing none, the audited financial statements are adopted. And now the budget.
So I'd like to move to adopt the proposed 2024 budget. Would anybody like to second?
Oh, I see Kale seconds. Excellent.
Are there any, and Juliana, thank you. Are there any objections?
Okay,
awesome.
Not seeing.
All right, thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so now we will go on to the next thing. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Where are we? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
yep.
We can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Where are we? Oh, so des questions des rapports. Est-ce que quelqu'un a des questions sur le rapport des assurances collectives? C'est le domaine de Marty. Any questions about the insurance reports? I am not seeing any. Question au sujet de la rapport du comité professionnel, c'est moi. Pas de question. That's good. It's William. Are you here? Are you willing to say a few words about the PIMI?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So this is, I'm just going to take stop sharing, if that's okay, because I don't think we really need that bugging us there. If I can figure out how. And share. No. Sorry. But go ahead while I sort out my mess here.
Sure.
Oh, sharing is paused. Okay, there we are.
All right, so this is a report on the PIMI, the PIMI. So about a year ago, I took on the challenge to develop and implement a mentorship program for Indigenous students to be paired with a Foreign Service Officer mentor. The initial idea was that Indigenous peoples live all over Canada, and many may not have access to networks, personal connections to learn about and be guided towards an FS career. So we started a working group of about a dozen PAFSO members with a passion for this idea, both in IRCC and GAC. We put together program documentation, and we developed a vision that the PIMI will contribute to reconciliation and a renewal of Indigenous representation in the Foreign Service. Its mission is to raise awareness of the Foreign Service as a viable career path for Indigenous students and equip them with the network and resources to empower them to successfully pursue careers in Canada's Foreign Service. And this idea was based on 3 values. Number 1, respect for Indigenous peoples. 2, a contribution to reconciliation. And 3, renewal of the Foreign Service with increased representation of Indigenous Foreign Service officers. So in the spring, we put together a mentor recruitment campaign, and the results of that far exceeded all expectations. Around 40 current and former FS raised their hands to volunteer as mentors. And these mentors worked hard to complete baseline training in Indigenous history and issues, and completed a workshop on indigeneity and mentorship last September. And last week, we delivered webinars to 20 to 25 attendees, mostly from Canada, but a few attending from outside of Canada, Argentina and China, and the vast majority of these were students. And they joined from email accounts at other government departments, Carleton, the University of Manitoba, the University of Winnipeg, McGill, but mostly from Gmail accounts. So the webinar panelists delivered great information about the FS career challenges and about living life overseas. And after the webinars, we sent out application forms and recordings of the webinars. Now the mentees have a soft deadline of October 31st to be submitted their application. And I'm happy to report that we already have 8 applications from Indigenous students. So this, in my view, is a fantastic result. And there's still a week to go before that soft deadline, which isn't a real deadline. It's just a priority for being matched with a mentor. And next month, we will start a matching process and launch the mentorship cycle. So all in all, good news. And I think it's a firm, a sound result so far as a pilot, and we can keep the momentum going as we move through this year and into the next. So if there's any questions about this, I'd love to hear them.
Excellent. Thanks, William, and congratulations on this. I mean, I think this is a very positive contribution to the whole issue, and it's something that only we can do as PASO. It's like, I mean, we're doing something that really is like right in our domain. Nobody else will be competing with that. Where if people are not going to get this this support, this assistance anywhere else. And so I was really pleased to see how many people stepped up wanting to take part as mentors, coming to the information sessions. And I encourage you guys, if you're listening, we posted the web the sessions on the PIMI section of the PAFSO website. And I encourage you to go and have a listen, because it's quite interesting, even, as somebody who's been it'll be 30 years in December since I joined the Foreign Service, and hearing people talk about their careers and explaining things to students and so on. I mean, even I felt like I learned something about my colleagues and about our membership. It's quite nice to hear, and nice to see that people are so willing to step up and share their wisdom like that. And I'm glad to so far eight people. That sounds like a good number, but also a manageable number for a pilot, right? We want to we're focusing on a small group and wanting to get it right before we before we look at expanding, and it sounds like we're going to be able to do that. That's great. I'm not seeing other questions. Anybody other comments? Questions for William? Comments on anything? I just wanted to draw your attention in the professional committee report. I mentioned that one thing that we want to do is create a social subcommittee. And the idea would be to try to do things that would, not necessarily like educational, like the PAFSO breakfasts or, things like that, just things to get people together because, with everybody doing hybrid work, working from home, the whole disruption of the pandemic, a lot of new people coming in without that chance to, kind of connect with an obvious group in an in-person workplace. We think it would be worthwhile to try to get stuff like that going. And I would really appreciate some volunteers if people are interested. We've got some cash we can give you to spend, and it's an opportunity to be a bit creative. I'm still not seeing any questions, comments. Marty, is Lillian here?
I believe so.
Lillian, can you talk? Are you ready to talk to us a little bit about Boo?
I'm happy to do so. So I took over the editorship. I don't know quite how I got cajoled into this about a year and a half ago.
I do.
And it's been a treat. I'm very much enjoying it, and we're very much working to try to put Boo back to as close as possible to the state it was in when I was on the PAFSO executive a number of years ago, and I won't give you the number because it's embarrassing. Anyhow, the biggest challenge we've had with Boo, c'était toujours qu'on n'avait pas assez de contributeurs, and particularly not people contributing who are actually in the Foreign Service. Most of the articles had been written by, and many of them were all very good, by retired members of the Foreign Service, of which I, of course, am one, and I have been known to contribute the odd article. But so we're working to get to a balance between contributions from retired people, current serving members of the Foreign Service, adolescents, students, academics. We've had quite a positive response. We've been running for the last 3 issues, a book excerpt, and that's received a lot of comment. We want to have more interaction with our readership. We've also become more vigilant about making sure that it gets distributed on the Hill to people like Senator Peter Beam, who's chairing the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, and other key. The clerk has a copy. The clerk gets it as well, and as he's a former Foreign Service officer, one hopes he will read it assiduously and carefully. And we've expanded, as was mentioned. We will now be in a position to pay for contributions, which could, for example, include fiction. There was a very good piece, and I think either the most recent or the penultimate issue on on diplomacy and science fiction, which was something I had quite frankly never ever thought of, let alone read about. Alors, on fait toutes sortes de outreach pour avoir plus de contributions de la part de plusieurs personnes. And in this, I've been wonderfully supported by, first of all, I'd like to mention Adam Beauchemin, who was mentioned before by Bert. Zal Karkaria, I don't know if Zal is on the call. He's the Foreign Service Officer with IRCC, and he's working with me as Deputy Editor-in-Chief. So the next issue the letter from the editor will be from Zal. And Eric Schallenberg is our managing editor and helps us, particularly good eye for layout. So I'm hoping that over the course of 2024 that we can get to, reliably get out 3 issues and perhaps even some fatter issues, because I've been quite surprised since the word got out, and I don't quite know how it got out. I'm getting almost 1 contribution a day, including from, to give you an example, a former locally engaged employee at our mission in Belgrade. So il y a toutes sortes de personnes avec toutes sortes d'idées. Alors, vous êtes tous bienvenus à nous écrire un courriel, or if you have an idea. We have some ideas also, finally, I'll just say, for kind of shorter pieces like what's in your suitcase, what have you always got near you in case you have to evacuate or run off somewhere. If the Diplomat comes back for a second season, which apparently it will, there were a number of people who had critical comments as just how real or unreal is this series. So we're looking to have some fun, but also to increase awareness of the Foreign Service. I spent my whole professional foreign public service career with the Foreign Service, and it deserves attention. It's getting a lot of attention right now, particularly in the Middle East, and our consular services potentially having to evacuate even more people. So, and there'll be more visibility when they'll report in the Senate committee. So the timing is good. Je vous remercie tous, and please don't forget about Boo.
Thank you very much, Lillian. We really appreciate all the work that you and Adam have been doing and Eric to try to get everything sorted out, and Zal and the rest of the team. I mean, it's you know, for a long time, I think Boo was one of those things that everybody kind of liked in the abstract, but when it came time to say, okay, but do you actually have time to do anything for Boo? You know, that becomes a little bit harder. And I think we've got some new blood. I mean, I think paying for articles will, you know, kind of professionalize the whole thing. And, you know, some of the articles over the years have been really good, and they've been professional quality. And, you know, maybe now we have a mechanism to treat them that way. Kale, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, I quite like the idea of Boo paying contributors, and wonder if, as we look at engagement over the course of the next year, whether or not sort of branching out to contributors in the academic space. You know, somebody like Jamie Essex would come to mind as somebody who's done research on the Foreign Service and sort of the life and codes of diplomacy, but even just getting copies of Boo around and in the hands of faculty and sessionals and grad students and so on, to be as a reminder that they may want to consider going to the Foreign Service, something that's, I think, more relevant outside of the National Capital Region, but then having people turn their attention as a focus of research. And I would think that the more that it can be on the minds of foreign policy researchers as well as practitioners would be interesting. So just, you know, food for thought going forward, that maybe this could be a nice hook. I suspect that those of us who are posted at regional offices or trade commissioners who are dealing with education would probably be well placed to engage their university contacts. But if there's something that can come from the mothership that we can help relay, it is a good news story. And yeah, the content's good, right? It's interesting to read for some starry-eyed hope to be FS one day, and if we can convince them to start turning their talents in that direction early, so much the better.
Sure, yeah. Lillian, did you want to talk a little bit about the move to digital? I think that is going to make things a little bit easier as well.
Well, we're looking at having a parallel, kind of like most magazines do now. They have a post digital articles, but also have perhaps the more limited circulation, a print copy, because print is still, I get more comments on the print copies that people have seen than people necessarily going into the website to look at something. So we're going to talk through doing something along the lines like magazines like the New Yorker and the Atlantic, which is push out an article from the magazine so that people actually get it in their inbox. I read a lot of stuff like that. I don't always think of going into a particular website. Just on the academic thing, we have pulled together a list of the directors of key schools at universities focusing on international affairs and the Foreign Service. I myself am teaching at Ottawa U, and I'm certainly sending students in the direction of the website. And spoke to my boss at the university, as Roland Paris has spoken to him about. He's very keen to have a print copy. So we're in a stage of evolution. In this day and age, it perhaps doesn't make sense to send copies out in the dip bag to people all over the globe. It's easier for them to get it digitally, but how it's presented digitally is also also absolutely important. So a work in progress, and that's why I'm very grateful for people like Zal and Adam to be working with me, because they're more with it than I am.
Excellent. But yeah, I think, we recognize that, we had a problem a year and a half or so ago when somebody in the mailroom just decided that they just were not going to take our boxes of boo and send them out to people at missions the way they always had. And, this sort of got us thinking that, in addition to things like the carbon footprint and the costs and everything of distribution, this could potentially put us in a bad situation. Like one of the things we want to do by opening up contributions and, publishing more regularly and getting more voices in is, maybe to be a bit, confrontational is not the word, because we don't want confrontation for its own sake, but a bit more interesting and maybe a bit more challenging. And what if we ever have something in Boo where the powers that be don't like it, and so all of a sudden they say, well, this is not getting to your membership? It's theoretically, it's not out of the bounds of possibility. And so, that's another one of the reasons that we wanted to look at, digital first distribution, and then, with paper copies available and, sent to certain audiences and so on, but really more as the backup, and the digital one more as the primary vehicle for getting the magazine out to people. But we have to figure out exactly how we're gonna do that, and there are a few different options. So it sounds good. So yeah, I really appreciate all the work that's been done. I appreciate all of you, the contributions people have been making. Perry is saying he can write a filler piece about 7 years of building a haunted house. I think that would be great. We will be in touch. Yes, and I see people have noticed my riddles on Facebook. I'm glad to know that they're getting some traction. The next item we have on the agenda, if anybody, unless anybody has any additional comments about the reports, is members' business. So this is your chance. If anyone listening has any motions, anything that they want to put forward. I didn't hear of any, and normally I try to get people to flag those to me before we come here, so we know. But that does not mean that you can't bring something up if you have something, or also a chance to ask any questions you felt maybe didn't quite fit with some of the other any of the other topics. I am not seeing anything. Marty, did you get anything emailed?
Email is all quiet.
Okay. Okay, well, it looks like maybe if we don't have questions, it looks like we might actually be finishing a few minutes early. So unless someone has an objection, is somebody willing to move to adjourn this part of the meeting? I guess who's that? Naomi Gilker, and then seconded by Kale. That's great. Is that okay? Kale, I'm putting you as a seconder. Is that okay? And then is anyone opposed to adjourning? I'm not seeing any. So just a quick reminder that we will be coming back on this same link to this same meeting space to present the Randy Orr Memorial Award. And I think that's going to be exciting. You're going to see some colleagues that maybe you haven't seen for a little bit here for that. And maybe Marty, since the meeting is adjourned, could you turn off the recording?